DHL Express is the consumer and SME-focused unit of Deutsche Post's DHL. Its express arm operates alongside other divisions, including DHL Global Forwarding and DHL Supply Chain. Today, the Kenyan Wall Street is sitting down with DHL Express's CEO for Sub-Saharan Africa, Hennie Heymans, to understand where the company is today, where it's heading in the future, and what shipping and logistics trends will have an impact on Kenya's local economy. Hennie, good morning. Thank you so much for joining me on the Kenyan Wall Street podcast today.
Morning, Andrew. Thank you. And it's a pleasure to join you.
So let's dive right in. Now, DHL Express has had operations in Kenya and across the African continent for many years. What do you expect the next 10 years to look like for DHL Express here in Kenya?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. So we've been around in Kenya for 44 years now, and it's been an incredible journey for us. Our investment in people and infrastructure and customers continues to pay off handsomely for us. And certainly during COVID, it was a wonderful opportunity to actually see how much that investment has meant for us, not just in Kenya, not just in East Africa, but in fact the importance that it had for us across the continent. During the peak of COVID, as a matter of interest, Kenya became our most critical hub to service Indian Ocean islands, as well as Southern Africa. So I think that bodes well for the future, only because, we've learned from the current levels of investment, the importance and the critical role Kenya could play and will continue to play as we go forward. So in answer to your question, what will we do going forward? We'll continue to invest in our people because that's the absolute crux of our business. Everything starts with our people, and therefore that investment will continue to carry on. And then we'll continue to invest in the skill set, not just of our people, but also the SMEs. We focus quite heavily on SMEs across Africa and in Kenya very particularly so. So those investments will continue for the next 10 years, certainly, Andrew.
Okay, now each company in the logistics and shipping industry has its niche, a use case or particular industry where they are the best option available on the market. What key industries in Kenya have DHL Express found its niche?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I would say that it's our niche, but certainly the market that we concentrate on and the sector that we concentrate on now is the SMEs. And if I have to take that down one more level, I would say it's the agri sector. The agricultural sector plays an enormous role in the local economy from a GDP point of view, as well as from an employment point of view. Kenya is in a wonderful position that it produces incredibly good quality agricultural products. And our role in that is to help connect the local market to the international market throughout 220 plus countries. So therefore, helping locals understand the market potential is a key focus area for us. And then, of course, to actually make it happen in reality is, of course, where it becomes incredibly satisfying for us, is where we can link local farmers to the international market. So in short, SMEs is where our focus would be. And if you want to call it a niche, I would probably say it's certainly a sector that we have found a niche in. But more importantly is the agricultural sector. There's enormous potential in the agricultural sector, not just in Kenya, but across this African continent of ours.
All right. Now, which emerging trends do you foresee having an impact on the logistics industry here in Kenya and across the African continent?
Andrew, that's a great question. I certainly would say that digitalization is an emerging trend, and we've got to really all keep abreast with that development. And in fact, not only keep abreast with it, but also lead that development. I think that's going to be an important one. I think the second one is as we see the infrastructure growth taking place, that's an important one for us to keep an eye on and to be a part of. Frankly, we've got the ability through our global network to share some of our expertise, and we do so very well, in fact, in Kenya through one of our programs, which is called the Go Trade program. And the purpose of the program is to do exactly that, where we take our international expertise and we share it in thought leadership forums to help that development and make sure that that development is aligned to stimulate economic growth. So those are two of the things that I would say one would certainly have to look out for. And I think, the third one from a development point of view is to see how global markets are shifting. We've all seen what's happening in Europe with the war between Ukraine and Russia. And that has certainly seen a shift in terms of where people are starting to look for their energy needs, as well as where their food will come from. And I think on that, particular point is where Kenya can play an important role and perhaps even accelerate their growth in the agricultural sector.
Okay, now you hinted at this earlier. I've not wished for another pandemic ever to take place. COVID is a horrible experience for everyone. But if another pandemic were to take place, how is DHL Express better equipped to handle such a challenge now than you were just a few years ago?
Andrew, great question again. I think the one thing that we have seen during COVID is our ability as an organization to adjust and the agility that we've shown as an organization. And again, thanks to our people. So we will continue to have that agility at the front and the center of our minds. But what we've also seen was the way in which we've structured our aviation network has been an incredible asset for us during the most difficult period, as you rightfully say, when COVID came along. And indeed, it was through our aviation network and the setup of our aviation network that we've actually kept this continent connected to the rest of the world. In many instances across Africa, DHL was the very first company that flew in some of the vaccines, and also the very first company that were able to reconnect economies with the trade of goods. So we will continue to apply that kind of approach to whatever we set up and whatever type of investments we do. But most importantly, we'll continue to invest in our people, because after all, it was our people who showed that agility and made it all work for us.
Okay. Now, it is no lie that logistics and shipping industry requires a significant amount of energy. In this age where everyone is looking to reduce their carbon footprint and adapt to the challenge of climate change, what steps has DHL taken to address its carbon footprint and build a more sustainable business environment?
Yeah, Andrew, that's something that I'm quite passionate about. So I may just actually take over this entire interview on that topic, but I'll try my best not to. I think there's a couple of points from our point of view, Andrew. The first one is the global commitment that we've made in this regard. DHL was the very first logistics organization that made a commitment to be carbon neutral by 2050. That, of course, if you then work it backwards, there are numerous commitments that has to precede that kind of commitment in order to achieve that. Firstly, we started the changing of our air fleet to get ourselves more energy efficient or fuel efficient aircraft. And you would have seen the massive investment in the Airbus fleet that we've invested in because of that very specific reason. We've also made a significant financial commitment to SAF, Sustainable Aviation Fuel, and our first commitment in that regard was a 7 billion euro commitment till 2030. And that for us is an enormous step, but also, again, the right step in order to make sure that we too play our part in making this world a better world. Finally, we've also been able to bring that down to customer level, and our customers now have an opportunity where they too can be responsible in terms of the shipping solution that they pick or decide on. And we now have a commercial opportunity where customers can actually choose an option that will help them with the inset or the offset of their carbon emissions. So, yeah, I think if I just run through that, then in summary, we've made an enormous commitment, 2050 to be zero. From an emission point of view, we've committed 7 billion euros by 2030 on SAF, and we've now brought it commercially to the power of our customers to actually help us achieve those goals. And then further, just from an investment point of view, if you look at our commitment in terms of electrical fleets, across the world, we've made significant investments in electrical delivery vehicles. Even here in Africa, which is lagging behind from an infrastructure point of view, we're already testing vehicles and motorbikes in several countries in Africa. And then, of course, last but not least, whenever we invest in our infrastructure and buildings in specific, we absolutely do not do that unless we include solar energy as part of those investments. So I hope that gives you a little bit of a flavor, Andrew, of the type of things that we look at from an energy point of view and a carbon emission reduction point of view.
Yeah, and that's great. And I'm very interested in particular in what you were saying about allowing customers to kind of offset their own footprint a little bit, or deciding which modes of transport best suit them. Is there anything more you can tell us about that?
Yeah, I think I can touch on it in a little bit more detail. So the first one is where you can make a once-off contribution as an organization. So we will come in, we will sit down with you, we will look at the approximate emissions that takes place through your express deliveries. You then have an opportunity to contribute as a once-off on an annual basis to that offset, and we will then apply that offset to your logistic shipment, and you will in fact get a certificate, which instead will help that organization with their audits, the environmental audits. And secondly, as I've mentioned earlier on, you have the opportunity through our shipping tools to actually make a choice when you complete an airway bill to actually click a Go Green option, and that Go Green option will then allow you to offset some of those carbon emissions with every one of those shipments that you choose to be an environmentally friendly or a Go Green product. So those are the two key ones, Andrew, that I can mention.
Okay, I think that's a very unique approach. Now let's pivot the conversation a little bit to the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. At the moment, it exists in its early stages of implementation, and I think you would agree with me, much work remains to be done in order for the agreement to make a meaningful impact. As a global logistics company with heavy operations here on the continent, what role is DHL playing in making the Continental Free Trade Agreement a reality?
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, I think there's two things that we play a role significantly as a logistics provider. The first one is, again, through our Go Trade umbrella program. We absolutely are a part of the think tank conversations with the African Union. And the conversation there is to make sure that we use our international expertise to make the markets more accessible. And how you do that? You do that through structured customs programs and processes. And this is the key, really, and is to make sure that those processes are easy, so it facilitates the access, but also that there is consistency. I think the one thing about the free trade agreement is it's all wonderful that we have 23 odd governments that said they've signed it. It's all around the implementation, and that implementation requires a single approach to the process and the systems around that. And that's really where DHL plays a key. So it's about promoting intra-Africa trade, number one, because our intra-Africa trade is low at about 17%. But number two is about making sure that we help governments implement processes that facilitates that access to market. And not just for DHL, by the way, that is for everybody. So when we facilitate and when we participate in those think tanks, we do it on behalf of economies and logistic providers, not only on behalf of DHL, because of course there's a far wider benefit to be had for intra-Africa trade to pick up and to increase.
Okay. Now, in talking about Kenya specifically, have you measured the impact that DHL plays on the Kenyan economy, and more particularly there's SMEs you mentioned earlier?
We have and we haven't, Andrew. So let me try and give a little bit of structure to that answer. So we certainly have, in terms of the number of SMEs that we've been able to impact through our various programs. And again, there's a second program that we've invested quite heavily in, which is the Sherry Blair Foundation. And through that program, we've launched a training program called Road to Growth. And that's just really helping female entrepreneurs understand the mechanics of business and how they can actually take their business international. So from an impact on individuals' point of view, I can tell you that we've had 17,000 women owned SMEs that have gone through that program and the various programs that we as DHL offer. I can certainly tell you that we've seen an increase in volumes from SMEs. Have I done the calculation from a GDP point of view? No, I haven't, but I can tell you that impact on people, yes, 17,000 people have been touched through the programs, and certainly in the SME sector, we have seen an improvement in volumes cross-border from the Kenyan SME market. And I think the beauty for me around that is that it fits in 100% with our purpose. We're very much a purpose-led organization. We talk about connecting people and improving lives. And that's exactly what these programs do. If you just think for a moment, the opportunity and the privilege to have impacted 17,000 people and to part knowledge with 17,000 people, that actually goes beyond the commercial measures. That actually goes to say, what are we doing to help make this continent a better place? And that's really, to answer your question, so that's one of the things I'm incredibly proud of from a DHL Express point of view.
Yes, and impacting 17,000. If you assume everyone has 100 or so friends that they're going to talk to about this, the impact is even greater from there. Now, earlier you mentioned multiple times how important your employees are to you. DHL has won numerous accolades, including having been recognized earlier this year as a top employer in 7 different African countries, including Kenya. What is your secret in building a positive, safe, and encouraging workplace?
Andrew, that's a fantastic question. So maybe if I can start with the brag stats first. So globally, we've been recognized as the number one great place to work. And that's an important statistic given the breadth of this network. So we operate in over 220 countries. In Africa, we've been acknowledged and certified in 23 territories as a top employer, and we've just restarted that process now, as you've rightfully mentioned. What is the secret recipe and the secret sauce? It's a fantastic question. I think it starts with our strategy. And our strategy has got 4 pillars to it. And the very first one is about motivated employees. And we actually believe that having motivated employees leads to great service quality. That great service quality leads to engaged or loyal customers. And then the fourth and the final pillar is about having then a profitable organization. What do? We spend an enormous amount of time with our people on the floor, and kind of making sure that, number one, they've got everything that they require to do their job. Number two, to make sure that we create a safe environment for them where they can have the courage to speak up about anything, whether it's personal, whether it's work-related. I think that's quite important. And number three is, I think as an organization, we've certainly put our money where our mouth is. During COVID, not only did we not lay off people, in fact, we became a net employer of people. And I think that message was an important message for our people to understand and appreciate. But not only did we do that, we also continued with all salary increases during the COVID period. We honored all bonuses. And in fact, we went one step further. We declared a global additional COVID bonus to all of our employees. Now, what is the point of that? It's not about the money, but it's about the message. And I think, once you can show your employees that you actually put your money where your mouth is, employees want to work for these organizations. Employees want to come to work and make every day a great day. Employees want to come to this place and help us make incremental improvements, because that's the beauty of it, Andrew. If you just have a little calculator close to hand and you say we're 100,000 employees approximately in this organization, and if every single person just makes one little incremental improvement every day, it's 100,000 improvements. If you take five working days a week, that's 500,000 incremental improvements. You take that over a working month, I mean, the numbers become staggering. What is my job? My job and all of my leadership's job is to create an environment where people want to come and make an incremental improvement. So it's about that motivation, it's about that encouragement, it's about that nurturing of the talents in our people. Is that the secret sauce? It's certainly part of it, Andrew, but I hope it gives you some little bit of a bit of insight as to the things that we do.
For sure. Now, I got a few quick fire questions to wrap us up today. Kind of fun, light questions. So, you want to give a quick response to each of the questions? We can wrap this up. When you were first starting your career, what did you spend your first salary check on?
I bought my then girlfriend a new dress.
Okay. Working in the shipping and logistics industry, you have worked with many interesting and unique clients. What is the coolest thing, I say coolest, that DHL Express has ever transported?
Oh, wow. There are so many different answers to that, but probably the one that tugs at my heartstrings most is when we were able to send life-saving medicine to a kid that was in need, and they literally had a few hours left. And through us being able to get that medicine across in time, we literally saved somebody's life. That is an incredible privilege to be a part of that.
For a young person looking to build a career in the logistics industry, what advice would you give them?
I'm not sure there's a quick answer to that, but I think, you've got to, you have one life, live it to the fullest. And if logistics is your passion, then go all out for it. It's an incredible industry, and it's the one industry that actually makes the world go round. So, it's wonderful to be a part of something as unique and as meaningful as that.
And for reference, for our listeners, you've been with DHL for over 20 years now. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thanks,
great.
Andrew.
Now, my last quick fire question for you. What is the best investment you've ever made in yourself?
Probably in my health. I'm a staunch believer in exercise, regular exercise. So I train on a regular basis. And I think certainly it's not only what's helped me to keep sane, but it's also what's helped me to keep motivated and to have the energy levels that I have. So to any person out there, I'm a firm believer of physical activity and exercise and training.
All right, perfect. Hennie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Andrew, thank you. Take care.